Hi, I'm Amy Baez, pediatric occupational therapist and founder of Playapy. Today, I'm here to provide you with some playful solutions and powerful results. Today, we are fortunate to have an interview with Cara Koscinski. She is an occupational therapist and the author of the book Interoception. We are going to be talking all about it and some additional things as well. She is also the author of several other books, a well known and respected occupational therapist who speaks at conferences and is also known as the Pocket OT. And she's also a mom of children with autism. So there are many things that you can learn from her. And let's get started now. Hello, Cara. How are you today?
I'm well, Amy. How are you?
I am good. I am
Good.
really excited to introduce my audience to you. And I've actually had the pleasure of meeting you before. So, hello again.
Yes, we were at a conference and your session I was watching was amazing. So I'm
Well, thank
very
you.
happy to be, feel very lucky to be talking to you. So,
Well, and I felt, I don't know if you remember, but I was told that I needed to meet you because we both went to Duquesne University and graduated from the OT programs there. So you're quite infamous there. and and so I was told you have to meet Kara, you have to meet Kara. And then there was my moment. So it's really cool. And
that
now we
is,
both live in Florida.
yes,
So
the irony of it, right?
yes, yes. And of course, we both work in pediatrics as our specialties. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you talk to my audience today, and in particular, your book, Interoception. So, well, before we get started, I wanted to first just talk about the obvious for many people, and that is, what is interoception? Can you tell us what you would say it is?
Okay, I've rehearsed this a lot since I got the idea for the book years ago, and it's really the eighth sense. So I describe it as, we know as therapists and parents that there's the proprioceptive, so we can detect the movement, and the vestibular sense, and the sight and vision. But there's this internal sense that makes Amy Amy and me, and it's basically our who we are inside. So I to describe it in layman's terms, because that's really important to me to not make these big, huge technical jargon things, but it's just
Right.
the eighth sense, and it's nothing new, Amy. It's something that's been around for a long time, and it's basically if I know I close my eyes and I feel hunger or thirst or the urge to go to the restroom or the fact that I might be cold or hot. So it's kind of telling us about internal awareness. That's an easy description.
Yes, yes, of course. Well, one of the things, is that senses are often related to the body, mostly facial body parts. So we know hearing is ears, smell is nose, but we don't really understand how to associate that with a body part. But you talk about that in the book. So can you
A
share a little bit about
lot,
that?
yes. So a lot because I wanted people to know that this isn't something that's hokey. Because when I'm talking about it initially, and when I first brought it to my attention of the people that follow me on my blog and some colleagues, they said, "Well, we've never heard of this. Well, so how is this something that's made up?" But actually, it began in with this man named Johann Riehl. He passed away in I wrote it down, 1813. So this is a long time ago. He's the founder of psychiatry, and he started to talk about it back then. And then as an OT, our roots are in psychology too, and mental health. So I researched the connection between mental health and this interoception. And indeed, it is a connection in part of our brain that really all the information that we detect in life is designed to keep us safe, and that's the foundation of everything, right? Is survival and safety. So this interoceptive system has a lot to do with keeping our bodies safe and alive and perceiving danger and different sensations. So it fits in perfectly with the senses that we know already: the vision, the taste, the smell. We're all designed basically to keep us safe and not getting broken bones and not crashing into things too hard. So it fits perfectly in with what we already know as therapists. And it just is delving into this connection that we might have missed all this time, or maybe we didn't look into it enough.
Yes, and you specifically mentioned it's the insula
Yes.
of the brain. So where is that exactly?
The insula of the brain only makes
Mhm.
up, it's the insular cortex. It only makes up less than 2% of the brain, yet it's really foundational in making us who we are as humans. So it is deep in the brain. It's, in fact, it's so deep that at one point, scientists didn't even know that it was connected to the higher part of the brain, which is called the cortex, right? The upper
Right.
level of that brain. They didn't even associate this because it was thought to be so tiny. So it's tucked away way deep in the brain. And it's actually two little parts. So we say the insula, but it's two tiny pieces of the brain. And if you're a neuroanatomy geek like I am, it is in deep in the brain. So we have our cortex at the top. And then if we peel away that cortex, we have the brainstem. And that's where our memories and our perceived threats are located. And it's connected with our insular cortex.
Wonderful. Yeah, I remember learning about that and thinking like that's so interesting because I mean, I've had thyroid disorder since I was a child, so I've always associated like temperature to my thyroid, so it's nice to know that there's a little bit more going on there, and definitely something that our audience could look into more and help them to maybe associate and understand it a little bit better. So I
Right.
feel like as a book author, you have to be really inspired about a subject in order to decide to write about it. So what was it for you that made you want to write about interoception?
Gosh, that's such a good question. You know, I think it's because of my kids. So I don't know if the audience knows or not, but I have two children on the autism spectrum. They're now grown. One is 21, one is 18. But I've always felt as a mom that I was missing something. And as an OT, I was missing something with my clients. So I felt that I knew that we were getting somewhere on the toileting, we are getting somewhere on the feeding, but we weren't. I at least wasn't able to get everything that I wanted 100% when I met those goals with my clients and my kids. And I wondered then why toileting takes so long for kids on the spectrum or with sensory processing disorder. So I looked into it. I'm kind of selfish in what I write, but I do everything for my kids first. I guess that's the mom in me. But I did think I've got to look this up so I can better help my kids. And then when I found this topic, I just thought I've got to write about it because all I had done so much research, probably about 3 years of research, Amy,
Oh, wow.
for it, but I just jotted my notes down. And when I put them all together, it made a book. So I decided I'm just going to try it out and see what happens. But I couldn't let that information sit on my desk. I had to get it out to OTs and to families because it just really made everything kind of fit better into place. And I'm still working and learning about it, through more research, and others are starting to look into it and realize it's a viable thing.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
glad you mentioned the toileting because I feel like that is one of the biggest issues that I have as a therapist working with children, especially if they're on the autism spectrum. Is there any particular, like one quick tip that you can offer the audience related to that?
Well, my biggest thing about toileting is we often don't realize the bowel movements. Don't come as quickly. A lot of kids try to put on a diaper or a pull up when they have to have a bowel movement. So I think that the fact that that is part of their body and it's stored in their body, they may not even feel that they have to go to the restroom. So they may be lacking the awareness that they have to poop. And I think we sit them on the toilet and we think, just let it go. But the toilet is a big open and empty space. So it
Mhm.
makes sense that kids want to poop or have a bowel movement into a pull up because they feel the resistance. So I think just understanding the fact that the child may not feel the sensation that they need to have a bowel movement. Because remember that interoception tells us things about our internal body. So maybe we're swallowing too much food at a time. But if we're constipated, we might not even feel that. And kids might, with autism in particular, might not feel it until it's too late and it becomes painful.
Hmm.
Then we notice the behaviors, Amy. So we see them acting out and the behaviors come. So I guess the biggest thing I've learned, and it's kind of surprising to me, is that they may not even know that they have to go. So just being patient and working with a physician too to maybe take a laxative and make the softer, so that they come out easier, or practice with kids on pushing.
How exactly do you practice with kids on pushing?
So I don't know. It's very odd. It's an odd thing. So I usually use a balloon, and just have it between our legs, and we just play chicken, and
Ah,
we do silly games and things, and just say, "Oh, the chicken's gonna lay an egg." I think a lot of kids, they're visual, right, on the autism spectrum. So we think, okay, they know what laying an egg looks like. And I don't want to offend anyone by saying we're chickens, but
right. I
it's a
know.
really
It's
good
great.
visual and fun activity for kids. So I'll put on the chicken dance, and then we'll squat, and then we'll, use options. The squatty potty is really a great option now because it gives us some leverage.
Bridge.
So, and then also talking about kids about their body. So it's not only just that, but little kids, and even kids that have decreased verbal skills, like my 18-year-old is pretty, he has a hard time speaking. We just close our eyes and we feel our body for a short time. And then he'll say, "Oh, I feel my heart." So we'll put our hand over it, and I feel my tummy rumbling. So just those kinds of things might help parents to
Right.
work with their kids a little bit better, or OTs to help their clients.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I never thought about the chicken dance.
Yeah. Well, my sister's a music therapist, Amy, who went to Duquesne too, and
Oh, okay.
she adds music into everything I do. She's always like, "Don't forget the music." So
That's
she
so
she kind
funny.
of beat that into my brain.
Yeah, and I like to use different songs because I'll put like if I want them to do a bear walk, I'll put like the gummy bear song on or something. But I just never thought about the chicken dance for laying eggs. I just That's genius. Thank you. I'm gonna
Oh
use
my
that.
gosh, thanks. It's a great thing. Yeah. That's what I do all day. Right? That's what OTs do. We think about how to incorporate these silly things into functional or occupation based activities.
Exactly, exactly. So another somewhat related, I feel like some older kids have difficulty with bedwetting, and it's something that they really can't, necessarily be aware of because they're unconscious or they're
Yes.
asleep. So, do you have any advice on that, or any tips for bedwetting for older kids?
Well, the usual things apply. Obviously, medical rule out first, which we know as
Right.
OTs is critical. As and when medical things are ruled out, and we have our bedwetting alarms and things, we look at simply setting an alarm, maybe to use the restroom in the middle of the night. We hate to wake kids up in the middle of the night from a deep sleep, but making sure that they don't drink the liquids ahead of time. And then talking about it with them, because a lot of times it just is, so it's something that becomes routine, right? So just like our bodies crave routine, their body gets in the habit of doing these routines, and we just
Mm,
want to talk to the child about it. They're painfully aware of it, which is the thing. They know it's
right.
humiliating to them. And that's also part of interoception, though, is feeling those emotions. So when they feel those emotions, they may get upset, and we want to make sure we encourage them that it's their body and that they can control it. So setting the alarm when they feel they need to get up, or having them pick out a certain kind of sheet or mattress cover, giving them some control might help them to think, I've got this. Because it's a helpless
Mm.
feeling, I think, for a lot of older kids.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very
Hmm.
anxiety producing as well, which
Yes.
probably doesn't help either. It probably makes that a
Mm-mm.
little contributes to it in the end as
Right.
well.
And yeah, and that insular cortex we are talking about, it's intimately connected with the hippocampus, which again, being a neuro geek, is memory. So the memories that we have, whether we realize them or not, are often associated with an event in our lives that might have been perceived as traumatic or upsetting. So that again goes back to the looking for danger. So trying to keep ourselves safe, and we have a lot of memories, whether they're conscious or subconscious, of these things. So giving these kids some control of anything, because if you think about it, when they're not as verbal, or they really have a loss of control to some
Yeah.
degree, so they'll control anything they can just because they need that. We all need that, right?
Yes. And speaking of memories, I thought you did a good job in the book of really kind of mentioning just some of your personal stories in your family and how, you have these little things that they just kind of pop up here and there within the book. Is there any memories that you have with your children or even the children that you've worked with in your past related to interoception that may not have made it into the book?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think it's a unique perspective. I don't necessarily love, I mean, I love my boys that they have, dearly, and autism makes them who they are. But it's been a pretty tough life for my husband and I,
Of
and
course.
it's been everything. We always talk about this. We're always a step behind or two from other families that we know, and you get used to it. But just with even toileting, sometimes there have been times where I wanted to send my son to a private school and he wasn't able to control his bowels, and that was just like, he's brilliant, and that was what frustrated me the most as a mom, was that he was doing chess and playing all these advanced games and going to an advanced school, and then he couldn't have the bowel movements appropriate to get to the kindergarten. It was like, oh my gosh, so
Right.
I think it's the incongruency in our lives, at least, Amy, that between what the kids cognitive level or their smarts are and their body, sensory system is so immature. So that's been extremely difficult, and I it's hard to talk about it and express that in a book,
Yeah.
and it's just a ton of those kind of stories. Feeding therapy is a whole big thing, Amy, being an OT and going to feeding therapy with my boys. My son has a feeding tube because he still has motility issues from sensory,
Mm,
and it's like I can't fix everything, and I think that's the most frustrating part. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, I do feel like that is very common for parents, especially that getting into that kindergarten when they're not toilet trained. It's like, oh, but they know all these things and they need the stimulation because cognitively they're there, and they want to be there, but they have that barrier that's kind of holding them back. So it can be
Yeah.
super, super frustrating
Oh, it
for
is.
everyone.
Oh my gosh, it is. And and it's so many people email me with this kind of issue all the time from my website, or if I'm speaking at a conference, they'll come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, you look so put together and your life is so tough." And I think, what am I supposed to look like? I'm doing my best. But it is, it's very frustrating for a lot of families. And I think that's another reason for me to share the information with OTs and families is, gosh, if we can eliminate that, just any touch of that frustration, that's should be what we do as OTs, as advocates for our families. Mhm.
I wanted to ask you any questions related to well, just more specifically, I like to take a really playful approach to therapy, and I'm sure you do too. So I was wondering if you have any tips that you want to share about how to approach that when it comes to interoception. You gave a great example already with the chicken dance.
Yeah,
Do you have anything else that comes to mind?
oh my gosh, so much stuff. And even since I've written a book, things that I'm learning about it. The body scans are something I think that the other thing I wanted to say too is the yoga. So I one of the things that changed me as a therapist is being a certified yoga instructor for kids. And
Oh,
that was separate
okay.
from my OT, but I started to do incorporate some of that. And I think that the kids like to play teacher, right? So I know they don't get the chance to be in charge a lot. So anytime I can in my sessions, I'll let them be the teacher, and we'll take
Nice.
turns teaching me different moves and them different moves. And then I think too that a lot of them have that safety item they carry around with them. So we
Mm,
kind of name it. Like a lot of kids will bring in a train or a doll or something with them as they transition into the therapy clinic. And we always involve that as one of our classroom members because it's somewhat of a sense of security for kids. So we'll make
nice.
up a classroom. I think teaching, just making them the teacher, is so fun. And that's been really successful, again, giving them some control. And that's also working on the make believe that they might be lacking too. But music is also a huge, we talked about it, right? It's just
Yeah.
huge with us in the clinic too. But anything that the child is involved with, if we're playing a game like Hi Ho Cheerio, then we'll try to incorporate that somehow into a social story. But just whatever the child's interest is.
Yeah,
is
no, I
super
think
important.
that's a great example, especially with them being the teacher. I know sometimes when I do something like animal walks and I have like my examples and then they'll make up their own. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. Thank you. I'm going to add that to my list.
I know. Yeah, kids just
So,
have
yeah.
this way to, express themselves. And I'm actually attending a play-based conference this week, and it's virtual, so I can go in and out of sessions. And there are no OTs in it, so I'm going to write them and say, "Hey, we're the experts. I think one
Oh,
of the
wow.
experts on
Yeah.
play." But they're saying the same kinds of things. Is that working, just letting the child drive the things that we're working on is just giving them that power, and they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah. I just assumed that the conference was going to be OT. I guess
No,
not.
I was looking at the
Okay.
same. Yeah. Anyway, but it's interesting. So
Yeah. Yeah.
no
Totally.
OTs in it. We need to have an OT play conference to teach how to do use targeted play. Anyway, that'll be another thing I'll have to work toward.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you some fun questions.
Okay.
And okay, so this is like just a quick round of
Okay.
questions, so just short answers. So, what is your guilty pleasure?
Oh my gosh, cheesecake. Now I can have so I like having cheesecake by my pool. And I make my husband bring it to me, and we'll call it just like his room service or pool service. So that's what we do. He brings it to me at least maybe once every month by the pool with cherries. And
I
then my
like
kids
it.
aren't allowed out. They're doing something. Well, they're not kids anymore, but yeah.
Kind of like that with brownies.
Mhm.
What is your dream vacation?
I think I'm in it in Florida. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go to Thailand so
Mm.
badly, and I'm hoping someone asks me to speak there, so it's paid for. But I want to experience the beauty there and the food.
Yes, I totally identify with that. What is your hidden talent?
Oh, I'm a classically trained pianist. That
Oh, wow.
I took 12 years of piano lessons and used to play organ and piano at a church for a job when I was a teenager.
That is hidden. I did not know that. Very
Yeah,
nice.
no one knows. No one. I have this baby grand piano at home, but I
This is that your sister's instrument as well?
oh my golly, she's more much. I'm like, I can read what's in front of me. She can make up stuff and play it. So she's got pretty much piano though. But I got to
Okay.
take the piano with me when we moved out of my parents' house.
I've been
Anyway,
relearning to play the flute. I'm still on like the Star Spangled Banner. Like my
are you?
limitations are there's a lot
That's
of them.
cute though.
So thanks. Okay, so what is your favorite game or toy?
Well, my new thing I'm into is Rush Hour. I
I
don't know if
love
you,
that
yeah, I
game.
mean, yes,
Yes.
I can never play it when I was younger. And I'm writing a book on executive function right now. It's going to take a little bit more time. I wanted to get it done, but I'm just looking at all the ways that Rush Hour works on these OT skills. It's an OT favorite, but I can't figure it out
Mm.
very well. So I'm trying to figure out why, what's going on. That when my kids play it, they'll say, "What is the answer?" And I'll think, "I lost those cards. I really don't know."
I have that, and I also have the safari version too with
Ooh,
the animals, which is really fun
yeah,
too. So
I need to get that.
I use them, even the pieces, I just use them for
Mhm.
other activities too. So I actually lost one car and I was quite devastated, but I was like, all right,
Ooh,
we could live without the one car.
yeah.
I think I had it on display at an event and some little kid ran off with it. And I was like,
Oh,
I should have
no.
known that was not a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. Don't bring that again.
All right, last one. What is your
Okay.
desired superpower?
Oh, invisibility. Invisibility, definitely. If I could be invisible, I don't know about you, but I just love to slip in and out of people's lives and see what they really think. I don't
That's
know.
so
Yeah, like
interesting.
even parents after you leave the clinic, right? Or my
Ah.
students.
What do they really
What's
think?
yours? What's yours?
I like the flying one just because I really
Mm.
love to travel and it'd be great if I could get there, and not have to deal with jet lag and all that stuff.
And now COVID. So
Yeah,
right, you could be germ free in your own arms guiding you.
I
I love it.
know. I miss it. Okay, so I wanted to ask you another question I forgot. So you're the author of several books. And I wanted to know if, I mean, aside, I want to, obviously recommend people to go to those books as a resource. But do you have another resource outside of your own books that you go to and recommend to people often?
Well, if it's a parent, I love teaching them about their own bodies so they can understand their kid. I just read the book, The Body Keeps the Score,
Okay.
and it's amazing. And I also like Dr. Siegel. I think his first name is Dan. Dr. Dan Siegel. He is really good at putting emotions and things into YouTube videos and words. And he's written a few books too, kind of about body regulation.
Okay.
And he's a really good resource. For I don't know, for OTs, I love occupationaltherapy.com. I'm always on there, and I like to give their courses, but I think they're getting tired of me. But anyway, Dan Siegel's good. I just
Okay.
really like them. Yeah. Hmm.
That's super helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, how can my audience learn more about you?
Okay. So I'm actually redoing my website's still active, but I'm kind of updating it a little bit because I decided this world is keep going so fast technology wise, and I'm an OT. I'm still doing okay, but I'm working on it. So you're going to see a lot of fun changes on the site, but it's called pocketot.com. It's just pocket, like you're in my. You've got our resources in the pocket is how I started
Yes.
out with that, and it's pocketot.com. And you can find me there on Teachers Pay Teachers, Pinterest, Facebook. I am try to be everywhere that I can and be consistent. But yeah, my books and blog. I also have some free downloads for parents. Some things that get tricky. I've got a lot of sensory stuff, but some interoception stuff is coming. There's a handout on masturbation for kids, with autism that are older. Again, things that I've come up with that I couldn't find. So that's kind of my
Right.
goal, is to get stuff you can't find somewhere else, because we don't need to duplicate what each other's doing.
Right.
So
Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there
You're
anything else that you
welcome.
want to share?
Um, wow, I'm just so excited to be here, and I think it's so neat that OTs connect like this and at a conference, and it's really cool because a lot of us are doing stuff online now. I think just personally, this whole social distancing and things has helped me as a mom, because I can find more resources for my boys as they transition into adulthood online. And I just want to encourage families that feel isolated by this, like we initially did as parents and caregivers, that there's so many resources that have been uploaded online for families of kids with autism. And just look for them, they're out there. The Autism Society of America is doing some great things online. So that's all. As a mom, just speaking to the other caregivers out there, I felt isolated for a few months in the beginning, but now it's like, this is kind of good. So yeah, but
Yeah,
thank
there's,
you.
there's definitely some benefits, and
Yes.
yeah, people getting used to meeting on Zoom, making kind of normalizing that has really opened up a lot of opportunities for conversations. So I'm really,
Yes.
really thankful that you said yes today. And I
Oh,
hope
you're
that
welcome.
everyone really benefits. I know I have just from talking to you. And I look forward to sharing some of those ideas and to implementing them in my
Yeah.
sessions as well.
Yeah, and thanks for all you do, Amy. I have to tell you and your audience that when I saw you, you had a slide that said handwriting is not our number one priority as OTs, that we have a lot of things we can work on. And you had little slide that kind of demonstrated that. And I thought that was the coolest thing that I've ever seen.
Ah,
Honestly, I mean
thank
that
you.
from the bottom of my heart. That it's just like we do that, but we do so many other cool things as OTs. So you changed the way I look at things also. So I thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I
Yeah.
feel like I have to remind myself of that all the time. So,
Yeah, well, it was really eye-opening to a lot of us in the room, I think. So anyway, thank you.
awesome. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your beautiful Florida day.
Thanks.
I
Yeah,
will
you
try
too.
to as well. Don't be jealous out there, audience.
I know, it's pool time. Aw,
All right. Well, thank you so much.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Did you like this video? I hope that you did. I know that I learned a lot from Kara, and I hope that you did as well. Be sure to check out her book, Interoception, so that you can learn more about this very important subject, especially if it's something that your child is dealing with right now. Also, be sure to check out playapy.com if you want some more expert advice. There is a whole blog section on there with tons of articles that you can read that touch on various subjects, including some that we talked about today. Until the next video, I hope you have a playful day.